ready, partner? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 21st meeting of the County of Santa Clara's Housing, Land Use, Environment, and Transportation Committee. My name is Mike Wasserman, District 1 Supervisor, and I'm joined here with my Vice Chair and President of the Board of Supervisors, Joe Simitian, District 5. Don, why don't we start with you? We'll do roll call, and that'll work for you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you.
Don Rocha, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Joe Zientek, Director, Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency.
I'm Harry Freitas, Director of Roads and Airports Department.
Jacqueline Oncianio, Director of Planning and Development.
Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive.
Steve Mitra, Assistant County Counsel.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much, and thank you for those people here today. And if you'll please silence your phones, we'd appreciate that. We now move on to item number 2, which is public comment, the opportunity for anyone to speak about anything not on today's agenda. We ask if you wish to do so to fill out a speaker card. I don't believe we have any speaker cards, so we'll consider public comment done. Supervisor Committee, we'll move on to item number 3, which is approval of our consent calendar, which currently includes items 8 through 15. Do we have any individuals wishing to speak on items 8 through 15? Anyone wishing to pull any item through 8 through 15? Seeing none, Supervisor, I'll look to you for a motion.
So moved.
Move is to approve agenda items 8 through 15 passes unanimously. We now move on to item number 4 to receive a verbal report from PG&E, which I believe has been deferred. Is that correct, Francisco? Item number 4 has been deferred. I just didn't update my own notes here. We asked PG&E to come here and give a presentation and answer some questions. And what they said was they needed a little more time to gather a decision-making person to appear before us to talk about the shutoffs. And we said we understand that. We're hoping to have them appear at a Hewlett meeting in a couple of months after the holidays and address a number of issues. And we told them we're not going anywhere. Did you have a comment? No, you're good. All right.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on,
yes, sir.
Understanding that the item's deferred, let me just ask a question here. Who are the folks at the county that my office and I should be talking with to prepare ourselves for the meeting when PG&E comes? In other words, if we're going to have that conversation with the folks from PG&E, I want it to be a good one, want to be well prepared for the meeting, and I'm just looking to see who we might talk with here in our own county first.
Christine?
Sir, that would be Gary Hersig. I didn't know you were sitting
Gary
there.
Hersig, Deputy County Executive, and Dana Reid and myself will be happy to meet with you and share about our communications with PG&E.
Thanks. And who was the other staff
Dana
member?
Reid.
Dana Reid.
Thank you.
Yep.
And
He's back there in the blue
anybody else? I'm thinking of you, Chief, not to look at you too directly, but you know, presumably you're implicated in all this as well. I didn't mean implicate in the criminal liability way. I just meant it as a
innocent bystander.
But really, is that another part of the organization that it would be helpful to talk to before we talk to PG&E?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else you can think of as you're sitting here and the chairman is patiently letting me poke you on an item that's been deferred?
No, not off the top of my
All right.
head.
If you have thoughts, would you please just reach out to our office so we can think about it and schedule and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
You betcha. With that, we'll move on to item number 5, which is regarding the charitable feeding organizations and commercial kitchens. Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Wasserman. And we have staff coming up, Michael Ballier, the Director of Environmental Health, and Rochelle Gotti, the Director of the Consumer Protection Division in SEPA. And I just wanted to provide some introductory remarks on this item. As the report describes, we are pursuing on a few fronts ways to provide permitted kitchen capacity to charitable feeding operations. This also includes looking at developing pilot programs for low or no cost options. Two options that we are pursuing is a mini grant option that charitable feeding operations could find their own commercial kitchen resources, and we can provide a list of those resources on our website, and then get a grant from the county SEPA to use that resource. We're also looking at government agencies and nonprofits that perhaps the county could contract with directly, and then also provide that resource as part of a pilot. As we develop these options and are able to launch them, we plan to do that. We would not wait until the staff report that would bring back to the committee in the spring, and that's part of our strategies. We'd like to talk about in that staff report the success or interest in these particular programs as we're able to launch them.
Wonderful, thank you. And Rochelle and Michael, welcome. Before you make your presentation, is there anyone here who wishes to speak about this item? And the reason I ask that ahead of time is then staff, if appropriate, can respond to your questions. Seeing none, we'll go now to your report.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think Joe did a good job of kind of highlighting the big picture of what we're accomplishing. We're really excited about moving this effort forward. I mean, this has been something that's been in the works for a few years now. And just as a kind of bit of background, you know, we ended up having to get some changes made in state law in order to be able to accomplish this goal. And as we move forward, like Joe mentioned, our goal really is to launch a lot of this sooner rather than later, as we are able to solve some of the issues that we've identified in the report. And some of these efforts are also being spearheaded by some staff we recently hired, our new media relations outreach individual. We think it would be really nice to have that individual perform some of the site visits and introductory, as opposed to, you know, an environmental health inspector who is typically doing something a little bit differently. So a lot of the efforts have culminated into what we're presenting today.
Super, I appreciate your advocacy. Supervisor, any questions?
Well, let me say thank you, and also say thank you for one of my favorite phrases, which is sooner rather than later, which I heard. Thank you for that. I'm mindful of the fact, of course, that, you know, a lot of these efforts take place at or around the holidays, so I'm thinking about the next month and a half, 2 months. Anything we can tee up that quickly?
Yeah, I think if we have somebody who is interested in a pilot project and we can identify like a nonprofit organization, that would really help go a long way into helping us do it sooner. I think that's going to be one of the challenges, is that even in some of our discussions with folks, we just want to be able to understand who is actually willing to participate. But I think the answer would be yes. I think we could probably get something going, and you know, again, just really depends on the various factors that we're bringing together with the grant programs that Joe mentioned.
And refresh my memory, and I apologize if I didn't catch it in the materials. So do we have some resources available? I mean, the challenge, the interesting challenge on this one is that the amounts of money are relatively small by county standards, which means that it's, you know, a lot of work, frankly, to administer a program for relatively small amounts of money. But do we have the funding available right now then if somebody said, you know what, we'd love to do ABC, but we can't because we need to rent a kitchen and we don't have the funding available to do that? What happens then, or what are the possibilities then? Just
and I'm looking to Joe, but you know, there is I think a grant program that we're looking at.
Yeah, we were going to look at the grant program the board uses as part of the inventory item process that was developed through the OBA agency here at the county exec's office. Yeah, so that was one. They're mini grants for smaller amounts, and it's an expedited process. The grant agreements are small.
And is that already up and running? Forgive my lack of knowledge.
No, that's not up and running yet.
Yeah, and I just, again, on the sooner rather than later front, I'm just thinking to myself, what would it take to snap our fingers? So I'm going to snap twice, because it takes, there you go, thank you. And make such a thing happen.
We have Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive. We were having a brief discussion about this earlier with the understanding that there was a desire to move quickly. The challenges we thought about, for example, commercial kitchens operated by cities. We likely think, notwithstanding the fact it wouldn't require a procurement process, we would have to enter into an agreement. Then we thought, well, if we had involved private commercial kitchens, that would likely require a solicitation process. So we thought that the quickest way would be, and we haven't investigated this yet, but as we've discussed in OBA, we've developed a grant donation form that's already developed, but that we could use that as a means to get the money out there to these entities in order for them to engage with commercial kitchens. And we, as far as we can tell, that's the quickest way, most expedient way to proceed.
And just given the processes we work with here at the county, it sounds to me, going back to the earlier comments from staff, like that's maybe a 3 to 6 month process, yes, to put something in place?
No, I wouldn't anticipate it would take that long. I mean, we know all the commercial kitchens that are out there, and we can provide that information to the charitable feeding operations. We know how much they charge, and I think we could do a solicitation relatively quickly.
Does that require board action? I mean, I'm just...
They would be under the board, less than the board required amount.
So...
For clarification, the dollar amount would be less than what you need board approval for.
Yes, and we would use a general fund, an anticipated general fund savings in CEPA.
Let me try coming at it this way, and I thank you for your patience as I think out loud here with you. If I had a wonderful nonprofit in Mountain View that was trying to do something around making sure that folks who had food insecurity got well served, but they needed access to a commercial kitchen, and that was going to cost, how much does that cost? Ballpark, I don't even know.
Yeah, I think most commercial kitchens rent by the hour, and it can be anywhere from $40 to $70 or $80 an hour is what our research has shown.
So let's assume for the sake of discussion that this wonderful nonprofit wants to do some good work, deal with food insecurity issues, and they just don't have $500. So right now, it doesn't sound like there's anything they could do, but pretty soon, sooner rather than later, it sounds like they could show up and ask somebody, hey, could you give us a mini grant to allow us to do A, B, and C? And somebody could exercise judgment at the staff level, both about the efficacy of their proposal and also about the authorization of funds, yes?
Yeah, and I think that, our goal would be, if we had somebody in mind, we'd love to meet with them even as early as next week and have some discussions about what their needs are and try to understand and make sure that the pilot program could actually, be meeting those needs.
My tie for favorite phrase, along with sooner rather than later, will now be next week, okay? So just say thank you for that.
Yeah.
I've got what I need, appreciate it, look forward to working with you. And it's tough. I have these conversations, I'm sure my colleagues do as well, with community groups who, are understandably perplexed, I think, about how hard it is to move this great big battleship of a county organization, quickly or nimbly. And, I explain that we've got laws to follow and taxpayer funds to be careful with. And, I think big picture people can get that, but in terms of real needs on a day-to-day basis, if we can figure out how to be a little more nimble, that would be great. So thank you for the effort. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
The only comment I would add is that it would be helpful for us, and I don't know if it'll be through the Hewlett report up, but to document this so that it sunshines it for the full board that we're proposing to move in this direction.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to dig into that a little bit. Do you need a motion of any kind?
Do not. Simply receive report.
All right.
With that, we'll move on to item number 6, which is also to receive report from the Department of Planning and Development related to proposed zoning ordinance amendments to replace existing local serving standards with objective standards for non-residential development in the rural areas. Again, anyone here wishing to speak on this item, please fill out a speaker card right there. The clerk will pick it up. You'll be recognized and have a couple of minutes to speak. Jack, I turn to you.
Thank you. This is an item that has been in the process, the local serving in the process of refinement for some time. Upon my arrival in December of 2018, I noted that we needed to take a pause and take a step back and look at not perhaps an alternative to making a comparison of the uses and look more into land development standards. And that's what we have been doing now since December of 2018. We went to the community, we reached out to them and told them that the department was going to take a pause. We have 4 zoning areas that we were looking at and look at a better way to address some of the uses, the intent of the 4 zoning areas in a way that better addressed the purpose of those areas. Those zoning areas were ag ranchland, rural residential, and hillside. So staff is here today to speak to some of the work we have done, some of the conceptual items or I guess, subject matters that we wish to bring forward to the Hewlett Committee. We have not conducted public outreach extensively on these items, but we do have that a part of our tentative schedule. We will speak to those items on the next steps. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rob Eastwood, Manira Sen here, and Michael Meehan. Thank you.
Rob Eastwood, Planning Manager. I'm just here to introduce the two next to me. Michael Meehan will be doing the presentation, and also here is Manira Sandir, Principal Planner. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. Michael Meehan, Senior Planner. As introduced by Director Oncianio, today we bring you a first look at staff's proposed approach to replacing local serving provisions with land development standards. So what is local serving? To start, a brief overview of the term. It originates in the general plan and the zoning ordinance provisions intended to ensure the compatibility of new development in rural areas. The original goal of these provisions was to ensure that rural development served the rural population. Today, the goal, or rather after multiple revisions, it consists of an evaluation of a project's rural compatibility according to the project's size, scale, and intensity. This is done by benchmarking new applications against past projects using a 75th percentile rule as a threshold. The thresholds are calculated based upon a routinely updated local serving data document, which encompasses all of the past and existing uses. This inherently pins the process to a moving target with these thresholds. If the size, scale, and intensity of a proposed project exceeds the 75th percentile threshold of the past projects, for example, we're talking about the number of people or the building size, additional review is triggered using 6 criteria. These criteria are aesthetics, open space and habitat, agricultural production, watersheds, traffic, and noise. So in developing our proposal, staff has focused on these 3 interrelated challenges. Local serving is difficult for applicants to understand and for the county to implement. This creates a subjective process that is difficult to rely upon and plan around. Number 2, there is a disconnect between the county's current zoning and the goal of supporting farms and ranches. This was a top concern and recommendation resulting from the Santa Clara Valley Ag Plan and the Agricultural Preservation Task Force. And number 3, the county's rural areas continue to be threatened by the development of land uses that are incompatible with the general plan intent for those zones. So for context, the geographical setting here for local serving and for the proposed amendments, as Director Oncianio mentioned, is all 4 of the rural zoning districts shown in large part on this map. Exclusive ag is in green, ag ranchlands in yellow, rural residential in blue, and hillsides in orange. During this process of revisiting our rules for rural development, staff's goals are that the outcome be a zoning ordinance that is clearer for applicants to understand and plan around, simpler for the county to administer consistently, more aligned with county policies for growth management and rural compatibility, more responsive to public feedback during the outreach Director Oncianio mentioned in late 2018 and early 2019, and better able to implement the agricultural policy direction coming out of the Ag Plan and the resulting task force. Staff's recommendations are 4-fold, and we'll go through each of them with some examples. So number 1, replace local serving provisions with land development standards. As mentioned, local serving provisions currently benchmark applications against existing development relying on historical demand, such as the number of visitors, and the building size. Staff's proposal is to replace local serving provisions with tiered land development standards, namely A, lot coverage for total permanent land use conversion, and B, maximum building footprint. Here's a table to help understand, or to demonstrate rather, staff's recommendation here. The applicable zones would remain the same. The use types would transition from 7 specific uses to all non-residential uses, importantly with some exceptions for some ag uses in the ag areas. For example, nurseries pose a conundrum because while they're an essential component of our ag economy, many of them pave over the soil in order to cultivate their plants. Similarly, while ag processing is essential to the farm economy, it often entails very large structures and significant site coverage. And to contrast, soil-dependent greenhouses, while consisting of structures, do not inherently compromise the soil resource under them and therefore would not be counted toward such limits. Where currently local serving provisions entail a subjective and discretionary review with some shifting benchmarks, as I mentioned, building size, relating to building size, occupancy, and special events. In addition to the 6 types of findings, which are open to changes in interpretation, the proposed land development standards are objective and non-discretionary, using fixed numerical thresholds and a maximum building footprint. Number 2, to restructure uses under the classification ag supportive uses. Today's farms and ranches are increasingly diversifying their operations. Large operations are vertically integrating, while smaller operations are more and more dependent on ag tourism, for example, farm-to-table dinners, and direct sales, for example, U-pick operations. County zoning does not reflect these emerging characteristics. So staff's proposal is to update our code by grouping 5 categories currently existing under one new category, agriculture supportive uses, further classified by size as either limited or general. Here's another table showing the proposed changes to ag land use classifications. The first 5 categories on the left would be absorbed into one new category of ag supportive uses. Staff is conducting research to determine whether it makes sense for ag research to be included in this category, but typically ag research as well as ag equipment sales would not be grouped or co-located on one operational site with other farming operations, which is more of the case with the previous 5. Specifically regarding wineries, this brings us to the 3rd recommendation, to place wineries into this new category of ag supportive uses. There are 3 real reasons why. 1, staff believes there is the potential for the existing wineries category to permit incompatible development of large event centers, which has occurred in many other similar counties. Number 2, the existing wineries category has already begun to result in some negative community impacts. And 3, the allowances currently provided wineries leave out similar ag-related uses, when instead they might all be grouped together. Staff's proposal is to replace the use classification of wineries with ag supportive uses, grouping any new development of wineries with those other diversified farming operations under this new category. This table shows how staff's proposal to group wineries with other ag supportive uses might look. The same zones would apply. Instead of 3 tiered categories of small, medium, and large, the use would be put into one of 2 categories, limited or general, where staff is imagining that limited might be allowed by right and an agricultural clearance or an over-the-counter ministerial permit. We're imagining that the general would be allowed with a special permit or a use permit. Instead of using cases of wine and the attendance of events, 2 very difficult parameters for the county to track and to enforce, the proposed framework would primarily rely on building footprint. Instead of regulating minimum lot size, maximum event size, and maximum attendance at those events, staff recommends relying primarily, again, on the proposed land development standards. Number 4, limit non-residential, non-agricultural development in rural areas. This recommendation follows from two observations. Staff has found that many incompatible uses are currently allowed in ag zones, and the term marginal agricultural lands has become somewhat problematic for our preservation efforts. Staff's proposal is to align the allowed uses in rural areas with the general plan intent for those zones and to replace the term of art marginal agricultural lands with prime farmland. To elaborate on the former issue, staff recommends no longer allowing new development of certain uses that are incompatible with each zone. As an example, the uses listed on the left here are currently disallowed in the Ag 40 or Ag large scale district, and new developments of these uses in the rest of the Ag district are today unlikely to uphold the general plan intent for the exclusive Ag areas. The goal here would be to better align or realign the allowed uses with the general plan for each rural zoning district.
Excuse me, Michael.
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions, but I didn't want to interrupt you on a roll. But on this particular one, left side, where you have example of uses already disallowed in the Ag 40, and you've got about 7 uses there, which was your proposal to add to that list of disallowed?
So we're still looking at what that list exactly would consist of.
Okay.
Staff provided this really as an example of how we currently disallow some of the uses given the incompatibility with the general plan intent for that area.
Okay, the sentence in the top left corner, proposal to no longer allow new development of incompatible uses across rural zones. And here are 7 examples of that. Did I miss what else you would consider similar to camps, cemeteries, clubs, community care? Did I miss that on one of the slides? Or is that still to be determined?
It's still to be determined.
Okay, thank you. Before we go on. Yes, your microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As long as we've taken a pause here, there's the proposal with respect to the proposal is to say, let's go with prime farmland as opposed to marginal agricultural land, to grossly oversimplify a lot of complicated information. Yes? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Thanks. And where does that leave us with respect to ranch land? I'm curious. Does that mean that it would be unprotected?
It does not necessarily mean that it would be unprotected. Rather, the use of the term marginal agricultural land currently sits in our zoning ordinance with a pretty discrete purpose, which is to allow additional development on land that is determined by the decision-making body that it is marginal agricultural land. So it's really a mechanism to open up otherwise prime farmland for development if it's determined to be marginal, including if it's in proximity to incompatible non-ag uses.
If I can clarify, excuse me, the ranch lands, we haven't come to a conclusion on changing the intent. What we're showing here is just what we're looking at conceptually, so that the intent is relative to the zoning, however it reads. For the ranch land, we're running the land development standards to match up with whatever uses are listed below to support that.
I guess my concern / question, and we don't have to solve all this today, but you're looking for feedback, so I'm trying to provide some, is it sounds to me like that the move toward objective standards and the proposal to work with prime farmland is to say these lands get a certain class of protections and these don't. And so I think what that means is, and this is not my area, so please correct me at any and every point. So I think what that means is we've got prime farmland over here that we're going to say, yep, it should get some extra protections, and here's what that list of extra protections is. But as I understand it, that means that agricultural ranch lands would not be given those same protections. Is that a Did I miss that, or is that right?
You missed it a little bit, if I may.
Ms.
But
Oncianio, don't be at all shy about just saying, no, you're flat out wrong, Supervisor. So if it's wrong, go. I want to try to understand.
No, take that opportunity.
So,
Okay, I'm going to step lightly.
Okay.
So the intent of this is to show you how we're conceptually how we're looking at the different zonings. We haven't come to a conclusion that ag is going to be more protected than ranch land. We're just looking at the concept of how we would approach it. What really drives what we're talking about is the intent under the zoning. If the intent of the zoning is to, and I'm going to again just use this intent of, I'll use ranch lands, to promote cattle ranching, I'm pretending if that was a definition, to promote supportive uses to cattle ranching. Then the issue, once we have that intent, is underneath those uses would support that. That's what we're conceptually trying to get to. So with the ag lands, what's existing and the uses that follow underneath, because it says marginal agricultural land, you have these uses that are not compatible with the intent to enhance the use of ag lands. And so we're speaking conceptually. When we come back, once we consider the feedback, we will show what it would look like for ranch lands, what it would look like for hillside, based on the intent of the zoning. So we're not at any point right now coming to a conclusion that one is protected over the other.
well, I get that, but I think, but we've got, I'm looking at the slide and I'm thinking back to the earlier part of the presentation. The proposal is that prime farmland be given a level of protection that is tangible and specific, and I think that's an important and well thought through recommendation, and I understand the desire and the benefit, I think, of going to more objective standards. I'm just trying to understand if we use the phrase prime farmland. Let me try it this way. Does the phrase prime farmland include agricultural ranch lands? It does not.
If I may, through the chair, I don't believe it does, but the term...
Stopping for a moment, please. So if it does not, that would mean that any protections afforded conceptually at the moment, any protections afforded prime farmland would not apply to agricultural ranch lands.
Correct.
And if okay, thank you. And then that raises for me the question, as we're going through this exercise, do we still have sufficient protections in this system that's being proposed conceptually for agricultural ranch lands? Because my understanding, which is much more limited than the district supervisors of South County lands, is that agricultural ranch lands are a significant part of what makes the South County work, yeah? No? Yes?
Correct.
Okay. So that's all I need to do with it today, Mr. Chairman, is I just sort of wanted to surface it and say, for me, that raises some questions, and for me, that starts to make me a little uncomfortable as we move from conceptual to specific proposal. I would just ask you to bear that concern in mind. Okay?
So noted.
Thank you. And to be continued. I feel sure.
Continued,
Thanks.
yes.
Through the chair, if I
Yes.
can continue. So just to elaborate on that point, currently this term marginal agricultural land is only used in the A20 district to exclude certain uses that are not, it's only used to determine whether or not uses that are allowed in A20 are allowed in A40. So it's a pretty discrete tool within the zoning ordinance, and our suggestion is really to just tweak that so that you can imagine a certain level of development using the objective development standards would be allowed on prime farmland, and a different level of development would be used on non-prime farmland. So to conclude here, our next steps will be to hold a study session with the Planning Commission, to conduct public outreach, return to the Planning Commission and SIMPAC with draft amendments, and finally to present the proposed amendments to the board, which we hope to do sooner rather than later, by the late spring of 2020 if we can. This concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Thanks, Michael. And if you'll leave it on that page, Supervisor, do you have some questions? Otherwise, I have some.
Please, thank you for letting me
Thank you.
interject
And again,
earlier.
to confirm, nobody here to speak on this item. I want to say thank you very much. I really appreciate the work that you've done, the outreach that you've done to get us to this point. I appreciate the PowerPoint, the page numbers, always one of my pet peeves. Thank you very much to do that. What I would enjoy and appreciate is if we could get a copy, our offices could get a copy of the PowerPoint before we see it here today. That would give us an opportunity to go through it. If we have any questions, to reach out ahead of time, or perhaps to create a list of questions that we want to ask here. As you're going through it, different thoughts are going through my mind. Okay, and I'm starting to write, and then we're on to the next PowerPoint page. So if we could get advanced copy of that, I would appreciate that. We could be better prepared that way. I'm generally in support of replacing subjective standards with objective ones. Outreach is certainly an important factor when updating our zoning ordinance. Jack, you mentioned this in your opening remarks. You talked about going back out to the public.
Yes.
What I had in my notes here was a recognition that you had gone out to the public, more of a asking, going out to ask them, this is what we're considering doing, this is what we're thinking about, and getting feedback from them.
Yes.
And from that, you've drafted something here, and now your intention is to go back out to the public, hold meetings, and say, based on what we heard and what the laws are and our experience and da-da-da-da-da-da, this is what we propose going forward as far as changing things.
Can I clarify?
Yes.
So staff was already in the process of going out to the public relative to the local serving. When I arrived, and after reviewing the documentation, what we did was we went to the public at those scheduled meetings and told the public we were taking a pause. We did not have an answer and what do you think type of meeting with the public, because we didn't want to just have an open-ended situation where people were just throwing out a million things. Because staff had already presented information relative to local serving, when I attended those meetings, excuse me, with the public, I simply told the public we were taking a pause to reevaluate an approach relative to the 4 zonings. So the public wasn't in a situation where they were saying, well, we think ranch land should look like this. So we need to go back to the ag community, to South County, to the public, and we wanted to bring our concept to Hewlett so that we could get some direction on what we've been working on since December, to then go out to the public and say, this is the concept by which we're moving forward on.
Okay. Well, the direction I'll give is I think we're moving in the right direction. That's first. Secondly, I think the term local serving is problematic.
Yes.
Okay? It's too subjective, a term. Your idea of local serving, my idea of local serving, your idea of could be different. You ask residents there, depending if they're in ag, not in ag, if they're long time, large acreage, brand new, small acreage, whatever. So, and local serving from a legal standpoint really is not defensible. Okay? I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, we went through this. Yeah, it's local serving, and as long as you bring your driver's license in, proving you live in this zip code, you can come into this temple, okay, or this mosque. And I want to get away from all of that. So, Planning Commission study session, great. Public outreach with what you've got, great. You're going to go there. My vision is you're going to go there, share what it is you have in mind. I suggest coming up with some new, and it might have been, Michael, a couple of slides back, a new term besides local serving that you want to call what you're doing, and it's to address these issues, but still be defensible. And we've got RLUIPA and respecting urban versus rural and all the things that we're trying to do here. But once you say, oh, we're making a law so things are local serving, we had people say local serving meant 5-mile radius from their house.
Right.
Others said 20-mile radius. Others said they've got a church closer to their house. I don't want to get into any more of that as we go forward. We're going to make this better than what we had, and you're headed in the right direction. So your public outreach, I can see, and you mentioned Farm Bureau, okay, and the San Martin, various neighborhood associations, PAC,
right.
whatever, going to all that, that's great. Planning Commission, SIMPAC, that's great. I would ask you to add another bullet before Board of Supervisors, and that would be Hewlett.
Okay.
I would like it to come back to Hewlett, Supervisor, with your approval, that it comes back to us with your basically final draft. After modifying what you've heard here today and Planning Commission input and public outreach input and coming back with something you recommend, and Supervisor Simitian and I may or may not have a few little suggestions or tweaks before that time.
Okay.
But right now, I don't want to see it go straight to the board because it's not something right now that I could tell people what it is that I could describe.
Okay.
I have nothing to vote on right now.
Okay.
That's all I've got. Supervisor Simitian?
And then when it comes back and I raise my issue about ranch lands, it won't be a matter of conceptual consideration. It'll be a matter
It'll
of
be addressed.
specific
Right.
treatment. So I'll just say thank you for keeping those concerns in mind as you go forward and then come back with something more specific. Appreciate it.
Super. We're done. Thank you all very much. Any other questions, comments? None? Sylvia, your light's on?
When you finish this, I have a comment. When you finish this, I want to introduce you to somebody.
Oh, and we're moving on to item number 7 now. Okay. Item 7, Airports Commission Reid-Hillview Operations Report from Anissa Moeller, who's a certified flight instructor. And I'll ask Anissa to come up, and the chair of our Airport Commission, John Carr, with her. And Sylvia, your comments?
So it's not actually related to this item. I just wanted to let you know in the audience we have Jasneet Sharma, who's our new sustainability director. So I just wanted to sort of make that contact. She started on Monday.
Welcome. All right, take it away.
There we go. Good morning, Supervisor Wasserman, Supervisor Simitian.
Good morning.
For the last 19 months, during the business plan update for the airport, a constant narrative that was offered by airport staff was that there was a decline in the general aviation. And as such, the consideration as Reid-Hillview ongoing and to continue as an airport was in question. While nationally the decline may be correct, locally at Reid-Hillview that is not at all the case. And as the commission discussed this, and in our advisory capacity to the board, we wanted to set the record straight and in fact make the record as to the number of operations that are in fact occurring today and with the anticipation that they will be increasing. I am aware, and as most people involved in the question are, the FAA's involvement, concern, et cetera. And while the board didn't, quote, specifically vote to close the airport, the actions taken in last December's meeting certainly suggest that the intent is there. It's a distinction without a difference. The consulting firm, the lack of progress on the leases, and the vote to not accept FAA grants certainly sends the message loud and clear. So with that in mind, I thought it appropriate that we do present to the board the facts as they are today and what we anticipate them to be.
Thank you, and welcome, Anissa.
Yeah, good morning. It's my first time speaking here, that I don't have to look at that clock for 3 minutes, but I will try to be brief, and I appreciate everyone taking your time. The report I presented back in June was based off of data that was available at the end of May, which only took us through the end of April. I do have updated data through the end of September. If the board would like to look at that and discuss that, I have copies here, if that would be appropriate.
Thank you. The clerk will get them from you.
Okay.
And again, anyone presenting to us at any time when you can get us anything earlier is more helpful to us. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So what I wanted to do is just sort of walk through the current operations that we have going on. This update is in the same format as the report that you have in the packet, so there shouldn't be any surprises as to what data is being presented. It's just updated data, and I'm sorry I only had 6 copies, so I could also send electronic copies later. The genesis of this report was, I have a long history as a product manager before becoming a pilot and a flight instructor. And as a product manager, I was very surprised that what I would call the product owners of the airport, the county, was not routinely reporting on aircraft activity levels at the airport. I just found that odd from a product perspective. So I decided to pull the data myself and sort of just see what's going on, and is this airport actually any busier than it was, or less busy, or what's the issue, especially because we had been hearing about these low GA activity levels. So the interesting thing, and I thought this was sort of neat, is the day I delivered this report at the Airports Commission, the airport's director also did report on airport activity, the operation levels, and our data matches. So that's always very nice when two people agree on the data, at least. Okay, so as we go through this, what I'd like to do, I'll just refer to page numbers. And what we'll be talking about is the handout I just gave you.
Bless you.
So starting on page 2. Page 2, what this page is showing you is just the last 2 months of airport operations by month. The last 2 years. I started this in 2018 because I had previously produced a report that goes through 2017. So this was sort of an update on that. And what you can see here is the operations in 2018 were, something over 15,000 operations a month typically, which at the time was quite a bit higher than we had seen before. But then looking at at the end of this year, especially June and July of 2019, we see operations over 20,000 operations a month. This is more than twice the average operation count in 2010 when I started training at Reid-Hillview. So this is a very significant increase. At the bottom, I just list some significant events and months, but I don't think we need to go through that. It just sort of explains some of the dips and rises in the operations counts. On the next page, page 3, you can see where Reid-Hillview stands in comparison with the rest of the state and with the nation. In 2016, Reid-Hillview was the 14th busiest airport in California. It's now the 10th busiest airport in California. It's actually busier than San Jose International so far this year. It's busier than Palo Alto, which used to long brag about being the busiest airport in Northern California. Reid-Hillview has far exceeded that. And then as far as nationwide, looking back at the data, let's say 2016, Reid-Hillview was the 77th busiest airport in the country. Now it's the 56th busiest airport in the country. And this does include airports like LAX, Chicago, Atlanta, O'Hare. These are all towered airports. So Reid-Hillview is definitely not a unneeded or unused airport by any stretch. Going on to page 4, what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the comparison of Reid-Hillview to San Jose International. You guys have heard us speak many times about San Jose International, Reid-Hillview being a reliever for San Jose International. And so far this year, Reid-Hillview has, once again, more operations than San Jose International has. And for 6 months of this year, Reid-Hillview has actually been busier on an individual monthly basis. This goes to show that Reid-Hillview is very important as a reliever airport for San Jose International. If you took half or even a quarter of Reid-Hillview's operations and moved into San Jose, you would really impact the future growth of San Jose International. So it's a very effective reliever for that airport, and it's very important for the region. The last page is one I find most interesting. We talk about operational trends. We talked about the decline in GA activity, and previously we had been shown that in the 70s, airport operations were somewhere around 300,000 operations a year. My data only goes back to 1990 because that's as far as the FAA data goes. And between 90 and today, you can see both the annual operations and the average monthly operations per year. And you can see 2019, if the average carries forward, we will be well over 200,000 operations per year. That is far, far more than the barely 100,000 operations per year that we had in 2010. So the thing I'd like to point out here is, yes, airport operations are down from 300,000 a year back in the early 70s in the heyday of general aviation. But airport operations now are very, very robust and matching where they were in 1990 and in the early 2000s. And this is definitely not an airport with declining operations, at least to date. Are there any questions?
Well, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for putting together this data. I'm a big charts guy and numbers like this because people have different perceptions on what's actually going on. This is very, very helpful to me. As I look at your chart on page 5 of 6, it looks a lot like the Dow Jones Industrial Average to me as well.
It does.
And I see the high in 1990, and then that's when the bust was the next 4 or 5 years. And then I see the high in 2000, 2001, that's when the bust was, et cetera. And now I see for the last 10 years, coinciding with the 10 years of the stock rally. So there's certainly a trend, but for us to be up having more operations now than, except for a couple of years, any year in the last 30 years is amazing.
It is.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anything else that you wish to add?
Just towards your comment following the Dow Jones, in early 18, I did.
And if I may also,
Yes.
the amount of cars on our expressways also follows the Dow Jones average.
Yes.
Okay, the Great Recession, there were no traffic jams.
Yes.
The amount of available apartment units also follows our Dow Jones average. So I'm not just saying it's just related to people flying airplanes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I was quite enjoying the lack of traffic in the early 2000s for a while.
Yes.
But, the other thing that I found is actually I sort of did a study on what was going on during these time periods, especially when we had upticks and descents. And actually, Reid-Hillview's traffic not only follows the Dow, but very specifically follows pilot hiring trends. Very specifically. Matter of fact, that's part of why it goes down from 1994 to 1995. And then there's another descent, I think it's 2006, when the FAA raised the mandatory retirement age for pilots. Pilot hiring slowed down and training also slowed down. We are in an insane pilot shortage right now, and training demands are through the roof. As a matter of fact, they're even willing to hire 50-year-old flight instructors, and so I'm going to fly for an airline shortly. So this is a real demand that's going on. And as long as that demand exists, airports like Reid-Hillview are critical. You can't have this training going on at San Jose International. Palo Alto is full, capacity-wise. In this area, Reid is the best place to do this training. And I expect it will continue to follow. The statistics I read was in the next 10 years, in 10 years from now, half the pilots that will be flying the airlines haven't even started training yet. So you can expect this sort of trend to continue as long as the airlines are healthy. And even when they're not, with the mandatory retirements, the training will be continuing.
Wonderful, thank you. And you did all that in 9 minutes.
Thank you.
Good job, good job. Committee members, Supervisor?
Thank you very much.
Committee
Appreciate
members, any
the
other
report.
comments? No?
May I add one thing?
Yes, please,
Supervisor?
John.
Given the recent events of the PG&E power outage that have been occurring, that are currently occurring up in the north part of California, airports like Reid-Hillview are becoming more and more critical to that whole support system about the blackouts. I would offer, during the Kincaid fire, the Healdsburg and the Cloverdale airports, again, supported firefighting operations. And down here in Santa Clara County, when they did have the blackouts, Reid-Hillview was one of the supporting airports for the PG&E helicopters. Ironically, when they wanted to refuel, they couldn't because the power was out. So they magically found the way to get power to it. But the bottom line is Reid-Hillview is a strategic asset, not just to the county, but to the region as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Supervisor, if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to, and this is just an invite from my office, is as you receive more information, data like this, I'm big on charts and updates to things. Might be quarterly, whatever you're able to do. I'd appreciate receiving the information from you.
Yes, I'd be quite happy to do that for you.
Thank you very much. If there's no other questions, we'll call our meeting adjourned. The rest was handled under closed session, excuse me, under consent. So we're all done. Meeting adjourned, and I think, no, we do, well, we currently have a December 19th. We'll play that one by ear. All right? All right.
Thank you,
Meeting
Mr.
adjourned.
Chairman.